at 7:14 on Thursday, June 9th, 2022. The next item is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. For the record, I would like to acknowledge that Mrs. Feather is absent tonight. The next item on the agenda is approval of agenda. I need a motion to approve. Motion by Ms. Smith. Second by Mrs. Rogalski and Mr. Collins. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? It passes 6-0. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Approval of minutes from the regular meeting 5/26/2022, the special meeting 5/31/2022, the special meeting June 1st, 2022, approval of minutes of the executive session 5/26/2022, executive session 5/31/2022, the enrollment report from 6/1/2022, the school police report 5/1/2022, the school bus inspection reports 6/1/2022, and the residency truancy report 6/1/2022. I need a motion to approve. Motion to approve by Mr. Collins. Second by Mr. DeMonica. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 6-0. The next item on the agenda is personnel announcements. Mrs. Duncanson.
Good evening. I have one personnel announcement for you tonight, a resignation effective June 1st, 2022 of Charlotte Doherty. She is a kindergarten teacher at community school. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Duncanson. The next item on the agenda is report out of executive session meeting. And item A, report out of executive session meeting on June 9th, 2022. Report out of executive session votes. We did not take any votes at tonight's meeting. However, I do have a report out of votes from a previous meeting. So, actually, sorry about that. So, on April 28th, we took a vote to take action to leave the Northern Rhode Island Collaborative, and that passed 6-0. The next item on the agenda is a vote to seal the minutes of the executive session June 9th, 2022. Motion by Mrs. Rogalski.
Second.
Second by Mr. Fiorello. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0. The next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report. Dr. Thornton.
Good evening. Tonight, first, I have the pleasure to help recognize some retirements. I'll call up each principal for their folks, and as they get their certificate, they also get this very nice, large bag, Cumberland bag. So I know it's very, very sought after. So, Mr. Costa at the high school, please come on up.
Thank you, Dr. Thornton. I wanted to take an opportunity to thank Carl truly for the service he has provided to the students at Cumberland High School. I found out that some years ago he was one of the people who brought the career fair to our school. His efforts have led to opportunities for our students to learn about different careers, build their interest, and pursue their passion. Often bringing in speakers and scheduling field trips for our students. He tells me that in his retirement, most of his time will be spent with his grandchildren. I will appreciate Mr. Truly walking into my office on the morning of the most difficult days and speaking to me until I smiled a little, and then telling me he just wanted to see me smile. Across our school, he'll be remembered for his positivity and the way he raised the spirits of our staff, even when things were most difficult for him. It was my hope to have played a round of golf with Carl before retirement, because now we will have more time, and he may be difficult to beat in the future. Congratulations, Carl. Hit them straight. On behalf of the high school staff, we want to congratulate Holly Stoic for her retirement. The one thing we all know about Holly is that when we need someone to volunteer to do something, anything for our school, she is first in line. Each morning this year, in one of our most difficult years, she stood holding positive signs for students and staff to see as we arrive for the day. Her long tenure at our school has been one of service and love for our community. The plants and the flower beds in front of the school, the vegetable garden in the courtyard, the recycling and ecology club can all be attributed to her efforts. I can't imagine showing up to school during the summer mornings and not seeing Holly taking care of those plants and vegetables. I expect that she will ask for a key so she could continue making our school look beautiful, and I would welcome her continued commitment. Congratulations, Holly. You will be missed. Tonight we celebrate Carol Mundy's 27 years of service to the Cumberland community. One of the most memorable moments with Miss Mundy was when she asked me if she could bring weapons into school, which I believe needs some explaining. She is a proud member of our community, prideful of her school, and prideful of her Scottish heritage. During lessons on Macbeth, which takes place in Scotland, she was always eager to bring in artifacts to share with her students to further promote understanding of other cultures. This year, she leaves us along with her good friend, and we will miss her. Her efforts working with our most challenging populations are widely known, as well as her willingness to continue to learn well into her career. I mean, even as early as yesterday, she was taught how to turn up the volume on her computer so she could participate in a meeting. Jokes aside, on behalf of our community, we wish you lots of restful days in your retirement. Thank you, Carol. Again, I hope this doesn't happen during graduation. Every kid's diploma ends up on the floor. Honoring Mary Ann Gregory in this forum may not be something she is completely comfortable with. She has always shown herself to be a very humble person who puts her students first. Mrs. Gregory symbolizes rigor for our students. She expects her students to grow in her class, and her interactions with them demonstrate that. That's the respect she has for learning. Her colleagues characterize her as a caring person, someone that believes in all of her students, often articulating that every kid can be good, every kid can be successful, and we must honor their individual stories. We wish Mary Ann much happiness as she goes off to spend time with her granddaughters and her husband. Miss Gregory, I will always appreciate your willingness to adapt to your teaching environments, especially the past few years, as lots has changed. And if you ever need help creating another Sign Up Genius page, we will be here for you. Congratulations and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Costa. Next up, if I could have Dr. Masterson.
I'm not retiring yet, Phil. Thanks for clapping, though. All right. First, I'd like to honor Mrs. Cheryl Webster. Mrs. Webster has been a speech pathologist at McCourt Middle School since I started there. But before that, she worked out of Massachusetts. And she worked with some students who had varying needs. Some students had articulation issues, Some students, she taught very well social thinking, which is how to interpret social situations that may not come naturally to them. And you know, she was also a great collaborator with our reading specialists and our ELA teachers. She not only worked with students in an isolated scenario, also worked with them in small groups to teach some of those social coaching situations, but also saw them in the inclusion setting. So she worked really well and collaborated with her colleagues, and she was also always ready to jump in and help out wherever needed for school culture. Later in her career, in the last couple of years, Mrs. Webster took on some extra roles with other schools, and she showed her flexibility, and it was much appreciated for her to reach more students than just the ones in McCourt. You'll be sorely missed, but I hope you do enjoy the next phase of your life. And your husband is here, and I've got to know him as well. Good luck to you. Next, I'd like to recognize Mrs. Cecile Palumbo. There she is. I met Mrs. Palumbo obviously 10 years ago, and I went to McCourt. She was teaching English, and I was at a time where a lot of teachers were teaching in areas that they may not have had been their first choice. So after the first year, I said, what do you want to do? And I got a split 7th and 8th grade social studies position opening up, and she said, I'd really like to go back to social studies. And she took on 2 different grade levels. And then when the opportunity came forward that she could just specialize in 7th grade and work as a collaborator with Ms. Tellier, she jumped right at that, and they've been a great team since. She also has been an active member of her grade level team. Also on top of that, she started the Vegetable Garden Club in our courtyard. And for those people who don't know, we have a beautiful courtyard at McCourt, which has a beautiful blossom tree, cherry blossom in the middle. And they've brought students out there during advisory, and they grew vegetables, and they took them home, and she offered them to faculty and staff in the main office, and it was just nice to have students working in the dirt and being physically active and seeing some fruition of growth naturally that they may not have ever seen before, and that was something that Mrs. Palumbo provided as an experience. She also every year sponsored the Geography Bee, and every year went to the Geography Bee with that student, and we competed pretty well every single year. Obviously with COVID, we didn't participate in that anymore. So you will be missed, Mrs. Palumbo, especially with your love for social studies. And we hope you enjoy your retirement. I know your husband's excited about it.
Thank you, Dr. Masterson. Now, if I could have Ms. Vaughn from Community.
Thank you, Dr. Thornton. Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to celebrate Mrs. Kathy Marto with you tonight. Mrs. Marto began her teaching career in Cumberland 35 years ago. Her first position was shared between Community and St. Patrick's School. Then she moved to Community School and has been there ever since. I first met Mrs. Marto 22 years ago when I became principal of Community School. Being a first-year principal, one of my first tasks was to find those natural leaders within the school that was essential to my success and the success of the school. Mrs. Marto quickly became one of those people. Her knowledge of the special ed processes, our community, and our students was invaluable. Kathy, to this day, shines as an example of collaboration, support, and kindness. Many of her colleagues speak of her gentle, guiding spirit. Here are some examples of the accolades from her colleagues. She's a wonderful educator who helps teachers and students be their best. Kathy is real, relatable, and so understanding. She helped me through my first years of teaching and always supported the students and me whenever she was in the classroom. She loves her students and gives them the tools they need to succeed. Kathy's expertise in special education has been a wonderful asset to the students and staff at Community School. She's dedicated to providing her students with tools and support they need to be successful every day of their lives. What she's doing for students and for our community never goes unnoticed. Kathy has been an amazing colleague and will be greatly missed. Kathy is an absolute terrific teacher who will be very missed here at Community. My first year here, I was so inspired by her dedication that I, too, pursued my special education degree. Kathy was my mentor throughout the entire process, and she could not have been more helpful or supportive. As a colleague, her warmth, creativity, and genuine drive to see her students succeed is infectious. She works tirelessly on behalf of all of her students. Throughout her career, she's always done everything she could to make students feel not only successful, but also loved and valued. Kathy is a wonderful resource at our school. She always is willing to help others to be as successful as they can be to benefit students. As a general educator, she helps support all students in any way she can. She's always willing to answer questions and mentor new teachers. Kathy is a marvelous professional and a dedicated educator. She encourages and motivates her students to be successful. While today is a celebration for Kathy and her family, it's a bittersweet day for our school. Kathy's presence and contributions will be missed. Congratulations, Kathy.
Thank you, Ms. Vaughn. And now, Ms. Coughlin, please.
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the NCMS community, I would like to thank Paula Vadney for her years of dedication to the students at North Cumberland Middle School. Paula has been a leader, a learner, and a friend to many, including me. She will be certainly missed, but I know she will do what she loves, which is spending time with her family, especially her beautiful grandchildren. I'm sure that will keep her very busy. This past week, we celebrated with a dinner honoring Paula. In attendance were about 5 or 6 retirees, one of which was over 15 years retired. And what I saw in those the people who attended was a commitment and a dedication to North Cumberland Middle School. They still feel that connection to North Cumberland Middle School, and that's exactly what I see in Paula. She spent her career at North Cumberland Middle School. She has been part of the fabric of the community for 25 years. She has taught over 2,000 students, and she will be missed. However, she has now earned that coveted spot at the retiree table where she can attend all of our events and be one of the ones who are truly committed and connected to North Cumberland Middle School. So I just want to say thank you. You have been an inspiration and so positively impactful to all the students and the staff at NCMS. So thank you very much, Paula.
And for our last presenter, we have Ms. Carter from Garvin.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to say a few words about Deb Cutler in celebration of her retirement. Before I get started, though, I would just like to say that Holly Stoic is a Garvin grandma, and in 2023, we will have a Garvin courtyard. So maybe with a shorter commute, you can just come on over and work on gardening in our courtyard, if that's okay with Adolfo. So it has been an honor working with Deb during my past 4 years at Garvin. She has been in the Cumberland School District for 21 years. But on my very first day, she was instantly my right-hand woman. I knew that she was someone that I could rely on, and she was someone that all of the students and staff at our school could rely on. She's always ready to jump in and help out in any circumstance. Each morning, I can usually gauge the type of day our building will have based on the number of coffees she is carrying with her through the door. She drops them off to teachers. They're not for her. She drops them off for teachers in need and checks in before her day even starts. Deb is a rock for our school during tough times and is the first person to celebrate with you during the good times. If you walk the halls of Garvin on a typical day, you will see Deb in the cafeteria, in the hallway, on the sensory path, in the copy room, in the gym, in multiple classrooms, in the nurse's office, and checking in at the main office. And that's all within an hour. She can run circles around me and anticipates areas of need before it is even a thought in my mind. Whoever steps in to fill Deb's shoes next year needs a very good pair of sneakers because she puts on the top mileage for our school every day. Deb goes above and beyond to serve our students and support the staff with whatever they may need. After years of dedication to our students, we are so sad to see Deb leave. But Garvin will not be the same without you, and we are truly happy for you. It's a time for you to enjoy, and it's a well-deserved retirement. So on behalf of the teachers, staff, and students at Garvin, congratulations. And Deb, just so you know, and I'm going to say this, it's on record, she promised us that when we return to Diamond Hill Road in 2023, we will see her face again. So we hope that we will see you again.
Thank you, all retirees, and thank you, principals. Madam Chair, we have one more set of recognitions. For that, I'll call up our athletic director, Mr. Crowley.
Thank you, Dr. Thornton. Thank you for having us. Our spring season of sports wrapped up this past weekend with the Rhode Island Scholastic Championships. A lot of our teams finished. The individuals actually tonight in a small group with them will be continuing for one more week at the New England Cross Country Championships this Saturday in New Britain, Connecticut. However, we do have 4 individuals with us this evening who were state champions in their respective fields, and years of dedication for our seniors. We have 2 rising juniors who also claim state titles. 2 of the people who we're going to announce have been before us before, and 2 for the first time. So let's get at it. In a very thrilling race, the 800-meter run, which I don't think I can drive that fast, this young lady put together a very tactful plan. From the get-go, she hit her splits, and there's pictures on social media of her, if you go to Ocean State running, of just the joy and the relief of crossing the finish line and smile on her face. I'm fortunate enough to coach her in cross country, and congratulations, Grace Carr, 800-meter state champion. Our next state champion has been before us before, had, I wouldn't say tough luck, runner-up finishes in cross-country, finished in second, and in indoor track in the 3,000-meter finished in second. He ran brilliant races, but this was by far the best race he's run in his high school career. He went out, he set the pace, and made everybody chase him, and the tactic paid off at the end. He ran a brilliant, brilliant race. Henry Denon, 3,000-meter state champion. Our next 2 champions are first-time state champions. Are a sport that I could never do no matter how hard I could try at it. The pole vault. This young man is definitely dedicated to his craft. He attends 1 day a week, goes up to Bryant and works on his game. As a matter of fact, he did not participate in the senior parade tonight, so he could go to practice in preparation for the New England Championships. Puts the speed work in, puts the technique work in, is a very dedicated student athlete. He's our pole vault state champion, Alex DeStefano. And our last state champion is actually a two-time state champion. She won 2 events this past weekend at Brown University at the stadium. Very refined in her craft, battled some injuries in indoor with some rotator cuff problems. But again, a very technical sport in the field events that she throws. Works very, very hard with Coach Goodrow, our throws coach here at Cumberland High School. And again, puts the work in the off-season and in-season. She won the shot put and the discus throw. Alyssa Yankee. Congratulations.
Thank you all. Okay, Madam Chair, just a few more items on my list. Next up, item B, just to let you,
I was just going to say, if anyone would
Yes.
like to leave, now would be an okay time to leave. Don't feel bad interrupting Dr. Thornton's report. We appreciate you all coming tonight, and congratulations to everyone.
Mr. Pignano. Madam Chair, I clear the room. All right, so let me pick up where I left off, just on the item B. Just a brief discussion. As you know, a few months back, we were in discussion looking at a potential boundary change for the middle level, McCourt and North. Just, I wanted you to know, if you were to take action later this month on the budget, and one of my recommendations, as you know, is to potentially reduce some staffing at McCourt. If you took that action, to me, that would kind of nullify the idea of changing the boundary to normalize the sizes, because now you'd have McCourt being the relatively same size as North. So I just wanted you to know there's no action needed. Just to let you know, I know some folks that asked me about where is this on the agenda. Town council votes their final vote next Monday, the 13th. Right after that, at any point, the committee would finalize their budget, and then we could certainly kind of put this to bed. But right now, I just want to let you know that's where that is. The last item, Madam Chair, construction, just a couple things. We have some meetings set up with the parents at both Ashton and Community coming up to let them know about Phase 1 construction. The 14th of June at 7 for a Community. We're going to have a meeting there to tell folks about the cafeteria in Phase 1. And the 15th at Ashton to talk about the new wing at Ashton Elementary, also at 7 o'clock on the 15th. We also gave a tour yesterday to 10 very excited teachers at Cumberland Hill over at the Cumberland Hill Space. They were very happy to see the progress. It's coming along every day. Another tour scheduled, I think, in a week for some more teachers from Cumberland Hill. So that's in process. And last piece, we did have a Garvin bid walk today. That's when we go out to bid. The potential vendors have questions. They go back, they meet. So it's all moving along. And lastly, we do have a bid opening next week for both Ashton's wing and Community's cafeteria. So we'll find out, how that looks at that point. So, Madam Chair, that is my update.
Thank you, Dr. Thornton, and congratulations again to all of our retirees and our state champions. Next up, we have reports of standing committees. First, the Fiscal Management Subcommittee update. Mr. Collins?
Good evening, Madam Chair. Good evening, fellow committee members and those in attendance. The Fiscal Management Subcommittee met this evening. A couple points. First of all, a follow-up regarding our item from the last meeting with the Community School Association and the Community School Playground. Ms. Vaughn's not here anymore. There was concerns about the state of the playground, as you're aware. We met with the Community School Association again this evening for updates. So there's good news. As part of a plan with the mayor to fix all the playgrounds in town. We have the money now to move forward with a plan to repair. The only issue now is just supply chain issues. So if we had this stuff, we'd be getting it done. It's going to take a couple days to put the stuff together. So we have 2 phases of the repairs, which will include some equipment that's coming and should be here. It's on order, I think. I forget, Dr. Thorne, when we said.
Right, we have some work that will be done in the next week at
That's
Ashton
right.
Community.
Next week. And then the second part will be the rest of the equipment, which could be, because of supply chain issues, could be pushed off into the fall. But regardless, there is a plan to put together a playground, even just a temporary, somewhere with the kids, a space where the kids can play safely. So that's good news. And the CSA, I asked them point blank, are you guys satisfied? They said, we're very happy. Now it's just a matter of supply chain issues, which obviously we're all dealing with in our lives. So that's great news. I have 9 resolutions. We have 9 resolutions this evening. We have payment of the bills. And the only other thing is we had our business office monthly report. Dr. Thorne just alluded to it, mentioned it, that we are obviously going through the budget season. The town council approved the first vote, as everybody is aware, and the final vote will be next week. Now, we obviously asked for more than we're projected to get. At the town council meeting on Monday, many people gave impassioned pleas, Mrs. Friedman, Ms. Rogalski. The CTA gave a very strong speech about why they deserve more funding or why we need more funding. The bottom line is, we're short of our goal, but I do want to thank the town council. They gave us an additional, I think it was 235,000, 238?
253.
253, I mixed my 5 and my 3. So we are getting a little bit more additional funding, which importantly enough will go towards maintenance of effort, which will help us not only this year and next year, because the bottom line is our budget forecast for the next couple of years, not so bad this year, we are short. But the next couple of years are going to be a challenge, so every little bit helps. And as part of this school achievement grant, we are going to be collaborating to talk about collectively with the town and the school how we're going to tackle that deficit over the next couple of years. So it isn't this kind of tradition where the town, we give our budget, the town says, all right, here's what we're willing to get, and we're butting heads back and forth. So we know moving forward what we realistically can get. So I think that's a step in the right direction, not just for, the relationship between the town and the schools, but the long-term financial health of the town. So we talked quite a bit about that tonight, and I think that's it. So it's a little bit longer than Ms. Smith wanted me to talk, but that's the update.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Next is the Policy and Procedures Subcommittee update. Mr. Fiorello.
Policy and Procedures has not met this week. I am hoping to meet sometime before the end of June.
Thank you. Achievement and Communications Subcommittee update also did not meet, and I am also hoping to meet before the end of June. Next is the District Health and Wellness Subcommittee update. Mrs. Rogalski.
The District Health and Wellness Committee did meet this past week. We meet every other month in person, and every other month we have school-based committee meetings. We started our meeting by hearing a presentation from Chris Hauk, who is a psychologist at Rhode Island Hospital. It's a study that they are working on involving middle school boys. Basically, they're looking to see if Cumberland wants to perhaps be involved in the study in terms of giving them access to students, where students could sign up for the study. It's designed to look at teaching emotion regulation, relationship health, and better communication, and then increasing family involvement in the education on those topics. And what they're going to do is have 2 subgroups with different methodologies, and then they're going to track those 2 groups over a few years with questionnaires and interviews and follow-ups to see if, by using those education tools, if they can have kind of a reduction in relationship violence in the high school years. But they're also potentially looking at to see if it makes a difference in other areas, perhaps such as discipline or attendance records. So it's kind of an interesting study. We're gathering some more information to see if Cumberland might be a good fit, but the middle school principal and vice principal that were there seemed excited about something that we could participate in, but we're kind of looking into that some more. We got a summary of the CHS athletic department activities for this past year. I thought it'd be good to have Mr. Crowley come in, so that was really nice. Actually, I was surprised at how much he's done. A couple of highlights: they had 2 different talks with athletes about steroid and PED use from Taylor Houghton. They do one in the spring and one in the fall, and talking about how bigger isn't always better because there is such rampant use sometimes with high school students. Sojourner House actually came in 3 times throughout the year to speak with students about healthy relationships and domestic abuse and assault. And he said they were really good at working on boundary issues and kind of giving students no is no, and so giving out information that they can take back for themselves. They participated in town cleanups with various teams. There are also several exciting things that they're trying to set up for the next school year. The first is bringing something in called the 10 Men Coalition, which is basically teaching healthy masculinity and how we interact with different genders. The plan is to start with coaches in the fall, and then the coaches will move on to the students. They're working on some courses on leadership and bullying for captains of teams that will then go back to the athletes. And they're also setting up a sports council in hopes of aligning the sports more closely with the ideals of CHS and the culture of the community. We even started discussing, after hearing about some success at Ashton, possibly bringing in therapy dogs to the high school to help with anxiety, perhaps around exam time. Obviously, lots of logistics to work out there, but just some exciting things that looking at for next year. And then the last thing we did is, this is our last meeting for this year, so we discussed areas of focus for the 23-24 school year. So our next meeting will probably be in September, and we are always looking for community involvement. That's one of the things we're going to be focusing on, is how to involve parents and the community more. So that's it.
Thank you for that, Mrs. Rogalski. Next up on the agenda is comments from the public. If anyone from the public would like to speak? Seeing none. Next item is new business. Item A, the school safety grant update. Dr. Thornton.
Madam Chair, as you probably heard in the news cycle, the state did come out with an opportunity for districts to get up to $500,000 for school safety. From that, they did put out a survey for each school to complete. We did complete our surveys. We've been working on this a long time before this, as you know. One thing we're looking at really for this money are interior, exterior doors and glass. That's really our focus right now. I can tell you we have 121 exterior doors, and we test them all. That's actually at the 7 active buildings, not counting Cumberland Hill. In terms of interior, we're looking for glass. In terms of some doors have small glass rectangles, some have larger openings. We really want to shore up those and replace the doors that have a larger opening. Also looking at bullet-resistant film for a lot of our outdoor, they're called storefronts or vestibule areas, and really kind of shore those up. So as we go forward, we'll be identifying those areas in all the buildings. I would also mention in the new construction, we have a mind for safety as we do build, and we do have bullet-resistant glass, and we do have vestibules and all those types of things. So more coming on that as we get the application for the grant itself.
Any questions or comments for Dr. Thornton? Okay. All right, thank you. Next item is discussion regarding fiscal year 23 school budget.
Madam Chair, I can do that. Mr. Pignano can go to the microphone as well, and we'll kind of tag team this. As you know, we were at the council a few times in the past week and a half or so. And down at your places, you have what I'll call a worksheet, just discussion tonight. Just our thinking is always, updated on what we think we could recommend to you for ideas to balance. So first, I'll take it at the top. The constant is the CTE tuition. Obviously, that's a positive piece for the budget. So that's holding strong at the 30s. That's $350K towards the goal. Next, if we do hire the 3.2 FTEs, history, English, tech, and 0.2 science, that would obviously come off the 350, but you get the idea there, one from the other. We have in the budget something called high school overages, where if we have too many students based on the contract in the classroom, we pay out a dollar amount for the teacher. We believe if we do add the 3.2 FTEs, you have less of a need for the overages. So there's $50K left in there. Should you take our recommendation later in the month, you'll leave $50K in overages, take 100 out. That's just one idea for you to consider. McCourt, we had talked about it. I know if we do reduce one grade 6 and one in the content areas, ELA, history, math, et cetera, that would bring the class sizes up to around McCourt. Not something we look to do, but it's something we have to look at given the sizes. So that would be a $300,000 net for your goal if you did that. For Garvin, temporarily, 1 year only, if we took this recommendation, it would be one less custodian, because Garvin comes up here next year, and we have some staff here to pick up. That's 39,811, that's the actual. Next up, we haven't fully flushed this out yet. If we were to reduce by 2 buses, right now, we think we have maybe 1 modeled. You could potentially take 100 off. It's not the full dollar amount of $85K per bus, as you know, because per the contract, we do have to account, I believe, for 45%, Mr. Pugnano, of the cost of a bus if we reduce. So that's open for discussion, of course, but that's just one thought. Also, with this conversation, I know there has been some discussion in the town about, trying to continue transporting everyone from a school to a daycare. And we always try to help in that regard, but I would caution the committee that it's hard to promise that in June when we don't have all of our schedules figured out. I'll give you an example. Last year, we had a BF bus with 1 student on the mini, and we had a chance to bring several kids to a daycare up north here. It worked out just fine. But I'd be hesitant to promise that, given we have to look at our schedule and all of our other variables. But I know that's part of the conversation for you. So that's one idea. Next, Mr. P., why don't you take the next 4 or 5 here?
On.
He's not on.
Can't hear me?
No.
How's this? Oh, beautiful. Yeah, the next one's the interactive devices. This took a little bit of coordination between Tony and Mike to get this done. We had, if you recall, we were using some one-time dollars that we had been putting aside over the last couple of years to buy the curriculum that the state's looking for us to buy. But what we've done is we've pushed all that curriculum into the ESSA funds, and where we had about $1.3 million for technology, we've been able to cut that back a little bit because we're going to be able to buy a lot of the interactive devices for the elementary schools through the bond issue. So we don't need it budgeted in 2 places. So Tony and Mike got together with myself and Dr. Thornton. We kind of worked that out. So instead of that money buying those interactive devices, we're going to actually move it to the fund balance line item and use it as a one-time revenue to balance the budget next year. It was being that anyhow, but it was money that I had put aside. It had been earmarked for curriculum, so it's not changing really the amount we're using for fund balance. The next one, fringes, pensions, and payroll taxes, with the changes, some of the reductions, and retirees and that type of stuff that we're seeing. A reduction in those numbers that helps balance the budget by that 67,000 change. Then the last couple, the buyback for health care and unemployment. These are just line items that, as we put the budget together, now that we're paying out these benefits and stuff like that, the budget's a little bit short that we proposed. So I would recommend adding that back in. And then the last item is the town achievement grant that Dr. Thornton talked about, the 253. So we have about $1,428,000 identified, and we still have, a small dollar amount there that we haven't yet come up with a solution for. And then I don't know if you want to pick up the last one, the legal.
Just one last piece. We have something happening across Rhode Island. It's kind of a new situation with Title IX investigations around Rhode Island, and it's causing a lot of just work in that area, that legal area, investigating. So I just want to kind of put that on your radar. We're not looking to add to the budget yet, but we do have some concern that we're getting more volume in that, and that's part of the general legal budget. Oh, absolutely.
So I'd like to actually add to that, because the way this is working, and Title IX has been around, but K through 12 was sort of ignored. It is no longer ignored. And so what our law firm, our private law firm, in addition to working with Cumberland, Cumberland has to retain sometimes people to do investigations. Sometimes those are lawyers, not us, other lawyers. Sometimes we, me and my colleagues, serve as investigators in other communities. It is the explosion of this Title IX in the K through 12 space has been I don't know how to describe it, unbelievable. I think most likely it reflects that it was not a priority at the U.S. Department of Education, and it became one a few years ago. It's always been applicable, but we are seeing, the lawyers are seeing it everywhere. Every school is conducting Title IX investigations, and lawyers are asked often, although not always, to serve as an investigator. And then, of course, we provide counsel to Dr. Thornton and Mr. Damana and the folks who are, and to a limited extent, Ms. Duncanson, to the folks here who are doing the investigations. But really, I view this cost probably as the outside lawyers that you would not be us, because that creates a conflict for us to do have multiple hats. In any event, that's what that is. But you are not alone, is what I'm trying to convey. It's everywhere.
So Madam Chair, having said that, that's our thinking on the budget right now. As you know, the council meets next Monday, I believe, the second vote of the budget. And after that, it's certainly your pleasure or the committee's pleasure to wait for the 23rd of June for your budget discussion, or should you want a special meeting before that? That's also something we could do. So totally your call on how we go forward at that point.
Any questions or comments? Just a moment. I do have a question, Dr. Thornton. When we talk about reducing 5 positions at McCourt, does this still includes having the essential positions that are funded by the ESSER?
Yeah, if we took this reduction, it'd be 1 grade 6 teacher, and then regular ELA, math, history, science. Essentials are still in
Essentials,
the program.
okay.
Right now, if you look at the numbers, you might be on average 18 in a room, and Dr. Masterson's here to help me with that. And if you made the reductions, you'd be, in the mid-20s.
The essential positions are to target, the kids that need it the most and to help ensure.
Certainly, I have Mr. D'Amato here as well, if you want to expand on that, Mr. D'Amato or Dr. Masterson.
Thank you, Dr. Thorne, Mrs. Freeman. We actually called a meeting about 2 weeks ago with Mr. Dabana's office, and we met yesterday for the first time, as I talked about at the Achievement Subcommittee. So it was at the table was Dr. Santa and Dr. Alfano, who represent the Special Education Office, and then we had Mrs. Frijol, who is the ELL coordinator for the district, as well as the Tier 3 ELA specialist, and Ms. Bissett, the Tier 3 math specialist, Kathy Cardoza, who is the Essentials math specialist, Tier 2, and Ms. Silva, who is also the Tier 2 ELA specialist, academic coach Mrs. Rayo, and myself. And what we did is we looked at our student population that's expected for next year, and we tried to forecast the numbers that you're talking about now, how many students we can service by level. We also talked about providing special education services potentially differently, and also utilizing our ELL, MLL teachers with their certifications more flexibly. And so yesterday was a initial discussion. I'll be honest with you, the first conclusion we came is that we need more teachers. I'm just going to be completely honest, especially to address the needs that are coming into our school next year. But obviously we understand where we are. We're going to continue to meet. We're going to build as Dr. Thorne likes to say, we're going to model it with the existing staff and look at what's left for needs to be addressed. So that's ongoing, and I've talked to Mr. D'Amato's office. We plan to meet every quarter next school year to see if this model is working for us and if there are any other changes that we need to mix or adapt going forward. So it's definitely very much a team approach, and we want to close that achievement gap no matter what scenario we're working with staffing. Mr. D'Amato, if you want to add to that.
Thank you. That is very helpful. I wanted to ensure that, you're part of course, this whole conversation and understanding what we're trying to achieve, because we've been talking a lot about McCourt and being able to put the right resources there. So, yeah, still challenging, no matter what. Any comments or questions for Dr. Masterson?
It's more of a big picture item. I do have a question. I think I asked this last meeting, but I'll ask it again. Anybody who could potentially be displaced, have they been made aware ahead of time so they're not, I just don't want them finding out?
I can answer that.
Actually, a Ms. Duncanson question.
Yeah, okay, so it's already happened. So, and they know it's pending. I've been in a situation where I watch a school, oh, I just lost my job. You know what I mean? So as long as they're aware ahead of time.
Yeah, HR and Mrs. Duncanson and I worked closely together, and I wanted to make sure that I spoke to the teachers first as their principal, and then Mrs. Duncanson came and we delivered the other message regarding the meeting for you together. And we wanted to handle those personally because it's, they're very dedicated to their work at McCourt, and obviously it's not information they received well at times, but I have been preparing our staff for this scenario because Dr. Thorne and I were having conversations a month before budget cuts, and I gave credit to Dr. Thorne at our faculty meeting. Cuts were made around McCourt, and when we had our proposed budget that you approved to go to town hall, we were protected so far. And then he's like, but I'm going to come talk to you if we don't get what we need. So they're well aware of that scenario coming forward, and it did. And I said, look, unfortunately, this is where we are. But we were protected for at least a month. And he wasn't going to come unless he had to. So.
Thank you, Dr. Masterson. I just, want to ensure that people know that we don't take this lightly. And I wanted to make sure, of course, that you are part of the thinking and helping to figure out where we get to. There isn't anything easy about this budget. And unfortunately, when you face a gap like we're facing, personnel cuts is unfortunately one of the areas that we have to look at. But I really appreciate, and thank you for the question, Mr. Collins, that we are thoughtful about it and considerate about it. So I'm glad to see that there's that partnership too happening. Any other questions or comments about this item, fiscal year 23 school budget? I do want to acknowledge that President Kinch is here, and we have been working together on the budget, and the final vote, the second and final, is Monday at 6 o'clock, yes, at the town hall. And then, like Dr. Thornton said, then it would come back to the school committee to then say, what do we do next, and get to the place where we need to ultimately approve the final budget for the school committee. But there is, out of the last town council meeting, and Mr. Collins mentioned it about the town achievement grant, and one of those stipulations, or the only stipulation, is that we put a team together to really look at the long-term planning of how can we work together as a town. The mayor acknowledges that, and I think everybody acknowledges that our school system is something we want to ensure is a jewel of our town. And we have some real challenges state-wise that we may not be able to impact, but we need to think about what other things that we can impact and how can we build a longer-term plan together. So I'm hopeful that we will have a good way forward in the next couple of years. Other comments?
And maybe Mr. Kinch can explain this, because my understanding was that the town achievement grant, that money would stay on the town side and would not be subject to MOE.
Meeting in the group that we're going to put together to
And, okay, and then after the group, that money would be put onto the school side as
I
a
don't know
permanent
yet.
addition?
I'd
Because-
rather wait and before I can comment on that until we get through the budget, and then we'll have that meeting and find out.
Okay, because my understanding, I believe Mr. Schmidt asked that question, or Councilwoman Bolio, I thought it was specifically not MOE.
It's definitely not right now.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. So, much more to come on all of this. Yes, Mr. DeMonica.
I just got one question on regards to the budget here. I know our attorney has advised us against it, but I would move to cut the money going to the BVP charter school before I cut my teachers. And I know our attorney has given us advice that we can't do it, but let Rhode pay for it. They created the monster, let them pay for it. And if push comes to shove in June, I'm gonna make that motion to cut the money from BVP. Thank you.
Mr. Fiorello.
I just want to clarify, and, I mean, I understand Mr. DeMonica's feelings about this. But as in years past, when we've discussed this, whether we decide to take it out of our budget or not, that money will come out of our state funding regardless of what we do. So.
Mr. DeMonica?
I mean, that's true. It'll come out of our money somehow, but Rhode will have to do it. I mean, let's face it, BVP is in front of the planning board in this town right now, and they got approved for a high school with 350 kids, and I think the number they have today was 420. So how much are we paying for that, that they've exceeded the amount of students that they put in there? No one came to the town and said, hey, we want more. I think our number was 50 students a year at the time when BVP started. So how are they getting up to those numbers there without someone looking at them? Rhode has to approve it, or someone does. But why should it be on the backs of these students here in Cumberland? Time has come for us to take a stand and let Rhode take the money. All right, we're not giving it to you, so we're going to send it to BVP. But they also got $4 million of PPP money that we didn't get. So it's time to take a stand. I don't want to cut 5 teachers in the school district. I don't want to do it. Like Mr. Masterson said, they need more teachers, not less teachers. And I'll take my stand and let Rhode say, give them the money, here you go, here's the check. But at least the governor and everyone in the state, understands what's happening here in Cumberland. Let's face it, no other schools are starting charter schools, no other towns are starting charter schools in their towns. And the reason is because they see the mess happening here in Cumberland with the loss of $4 million in funding.
Thank you, Mr. DeMonica. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is the vote on consent agreements concerning exclusion of administrative receptionist, transportation clerk, and human resource clerk from ICSI.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve.
Mr. Adams?
That's fine, just for a couple of minutes so the public understands what this is. Whenever a school department is going to remove a person from the bargaining unit, which is the union, and in this case it's the transportation clerk, human resources clerk, who are members of the ICSI union, one of a couple things can happen. Either the school department or the union can file a petition with the labor board or an action with the labor board. In this case, I'm pleased to report that we didn't have to go to that because working collaboratively with the union's representative, and all credit to Crystal Bergantine for her willingness to work through this, we were able to do something that is allowed, a consent agreement, which means that these 2 positions will be removed from the union, and the school department will have those same individuals filling different roles, but these individuals will be filling roles and have been filling those roles in the management, if you will, which simply means that they're going to be doing more supervisory work and work that's more aligned with Dr. Thornton's team. And so when you do that, instead of going through an adversarial process, you do what's called a consent agreement, which the union is on board with, the administration is on board with, and we need the school committee to also approve it so that we don't have to go into an acrimonious situation with the union. We just collaborate and come to a yes, and that's all this does. And there's no impact on this fiscal impact on this at all. It's all budgeted. So that's what this is about, and what we have now, instead of a human resources clerk, we have a human resources coordinator. Instead of a transportation clerk, we have a transportation, I believe it's coordinator. And those designations put them more in the management role. So that big send up, but because this is sort of a wonky thing, I thought it would be appropriate for the public to hear what this is about.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Adams. And we do have a motion to approve the consent agreements. We have a second by Mr. Fiorello. Any discussion? Oh, it's just vote. There's no discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? It passes 6-0. The next item on the agenda is a vote on ICSI collective bargaining MOA for sick bank.
Just introduce this briefly. This is simply a correction to the collective bargaining agreement. A change that should have been made years ago was never actually made to the contract, so this is simply a correction of that change.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Duncanson.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve.
Mr. Collins makes a motion to approve. Second by Ms. Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It passes 6-0. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is discussion and or vote to approve homeschool instruction requests for the 2021-2022 school year.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve.
Mr. Collins makes a motion to approve. Second by Mrs. Rogalski. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 6-0. The next item on the agenda is discussion and or vote to approve resolutions. Mr. Collins.
Sorry, I was distracted. Mr. Fiorello was singing the Muppets theme to me when I was... Good evening. There are 9 resolutions before the committee right now. All 9 of these approved fiscal subcommittee 3-0, and I would move passage to the full committee.
Mr. Collins makes a motion to approve 9 resolutions, items 1 through 9. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Demotica and Mrs. Rogalski. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It passes 6-0. The next item on the agenda is discussion and or vote to approve payment of bills. Mr. Collins.
Good evening. We have payment in the bills in the amount of $1,610,823.58. The payment of bills passed fiscal subcommittee 3-0, and I would move passage. I beg your pardon, 2-0. Ms. Smith was late, and I would move passage to the full committee.
Mr. Collins makes a motion to approve payment of bills. Do we have a second?
Second.
Oh, a second by Ms.
She's
Smith.
late, but she seconded it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It passes 6-0. The next item on the agenda is school committee comments, school liaison reports. Mrs. Rogalski.
I have 2 things. First, I realized that I neglected to mention that Emma Peterson was also JV state champion for the 800-meter race. So we have 2 girls 800-meter champions in Cumberland, which is pretty fantastic. Also, I just wanted to say, driving here tonight, seeing the residents of Cumberland, the people outside with their lawn chairs and their signs and graduation caps and streamers and banners, and I drive pretty much the parade route to get here from my house, and it was wonderful. It's just so wonderful to see the town come out, and I'd like to see even more people. I mean, I don't know if it's even possible, but it's just, I was sad that we were in a meeting and some of us had to miss it, but it was really, really wonderful to see the people coming out to support the seniors. So I'd like to see more of it.
Thank you, Mrs. Rogalski. Others? Mr. DeMonica?
Madam Chair, this would be for Dr. Thornton. Could we ask a representative from Alpha Best to come to our next meeting to give us an update on their application process to expand before and after school programming? I mean, I know we're here talking about cutting buses, and we can't promise parents to bring their child across town, wherever it may be, to the daycare, but we have a company that, you know, is in the district, Alpha Best, and I'd like to hear from them personally, if we could. Thank you.
Mr. Collins?
I did, and actually Ms. Coughlin's here. I had the pleasure of attending the NCMS History Fair last night, and it was really impressive. It was the projects in the it was incredible. I think the kids teamed up. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know my daughter worked with another girl, but they picked different important people in history and themes and all this. And even as a history teacher, I was impressed by the thoroughness. Kids had thesis statements and their works cited and their bibliography. It was excellent. A couple really stood out. It's hard to really pick a winner. I don't know. Did you even have a winner? That's great. And please extend my thanks and just my my praise for what they did. I taught middle school a long time ago, and I put one of those together. That's a lot of work, a lot of moving parts. I know, well, I had to run to Michael's to get glitter. I'm like, why am I buying this? Why is glitter so much money? And, so it was really impressive. So good job. And, I know all the schools are working hard on various things as the school year ends, but that was fresh in my mind because I saw it last night. It was awesome.
Any other comments from the school committee? I want to echo Mrs. Rogalski. I was able to watch the car parade. I do have a graduating senior, and that was a tradition that began with the class of 2020 as a COVID thing, and I've been really happy that we have continued that tradition. I think it's great for the students. I think it's great for the towns. I think it's great for the younger kids who watch. And speaking of that, also today was the senior walk, where they put their caps and gowns on and they go back to their elementary schools and they walk through the hallways. And my daughter, she walked into, I think it was Ashton School, and I think they were having a recorder concert. All students on the recorder, and all the parents were there, and everybody was clapping for them. And she had tears. My daughter had tears in her eyes. She got a little verklempt as she just saw this whole kind of circle of life of the littlest ones and the parents, and now she's on that end. So it was, makes a big impact on not just the kids in the elementary schools, but even the seniors walking through. So it's been a great week for the seniors, and I am thankful that the weather is held out for the car parade, holding out for graduation tomorrow, and for our party on Saturday. So thank you. All right, next on the agenda is vote to go into an executive session for discussion on items referred to in Rhode Island General Law 4246-5. I don't believe we have any of that tonight. All right. Then Mrs. Rogalski makes a motion to adjourn, second by Mr. Fiorello. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned at 8:23 p.m. Passes 6 to